welcome back to another episode of BAM GPG. I'll be your host, Bison.
And I'll be your co-host, Ben.
And today we're going to do a full-on mock draft with the Chargers with no trades. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe and go check out our TikTok, BAM GPG.
That's right, Bryson. So we are to the Chargers. Again, we're making our way through all 32 NFL teams as we get through a 4-round mock draft. We're doing it with no trades, as always. So without any further ado, Bryson, we are going to get into this mock draft here. We're doing it through the PFF site here. So I'm going to go ahead and start it. So before I do, the Chargers, we're picking 22, so one right before Green Bay in this year's draft. And our positions of needs: wide receiver, tight end, defensive lineman. So let's go ahead and get this kicked off here, Bryson.
Okay.
All right, so I am going to scroll up to the top here, and we'll kind of do a quick recap of the first round in this draft. So Abdul Carter went number 1. So he's the top defensive end in the draft, went number 1 overall to the Titans. Travis Hunter, probably the most versatile player in the draft, definitely, pound for pound, the best player in this year's draft class. A cornerback, possibly wide receiver at the next level, went to the Cleveland Browns. And Cam Ward, the top quarterback in this year's draft, went to the New York Giants. So he's going to sit behind Russell Wilson for a year to learn. So that one is interesting. Makes a ton of sense for New York. They need a franchise quarterback. They need a younger guy to bring up. And Cam Ward's that guy, and they're bringing him to New York here. And scroll down here. So Mason Graham, defensive lineman from Michigan, went to the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars are an interesting one, right? So their positions need wide receiver, tight end, D-line, and safety. That Jaguars defensive back, their backfield there and the defense needs a lot of help, right? That was kind of their weakness this past season. Teams were able to just throw all over those guys. So I think that's probably where they'll dress early in this draft, but we'll see. And the top wide receiver went to Oakland and McMillan. Ashton Jeanty, top running back in the draft. So this is an interesting one too. So he went to the New York Jets. So they got a great 1-2 combo there now. And scroll down a little bit further. So cornerback Jahdae Barron from Texas went to the Chicago Bears at pick 10. So they took Barron over Will Johnson. Johnson went to the 49ers at pick 11. That's an interesting one. Edge rusher from Georgia, Mikael Williams, went 17 to the Bengals. And Shedeur Sanders dropped to pick 21. So he's going to Pittsburgh. Possibly a guy you can take and sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year if Rodgers does wind up in Pittsburgh. So that'll be an interesting one. But Bryson, that'll bring us on the board here. And I will let you start with the first pick.
Okay, let's look at Luther Burden.
Luther Burden III. So he's a wide receiver from Missouri. This guy doesn't have a whole lot of size to him, but he's still a pretty productive wide receiver. He's quick. Burden is quick. He graded out this past season at 77.9. Let me see here, 676 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns, graded out as receiving grade at an 80.2 versus man coverage 78.8. His contested catch rate, slightly above 50%, which isn't bad. It's 4.5. Again, not the biggest guy in the world. He's 5'11", 208 pounds. So he is the top wide receiver on the board.
Let's take a look at Emeka Egbuka.
Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. He graded out at 79.5, had a little over 1,000 yards receiving on the season, 10 touchdowns, receiving grade 82.4, tested catch rate is pretty good, 59.1, and his grade versus man coverage also pretty good, 80.9. Size-wise, he's a 6'1", 205-pound wide receiver out of Ohio State.
You know what? I'm going to take Luther Burden.
You're going to go with Luther Burden from Missouri. So we're going to go ahead and get him drafted with our first pick here in the first round. So we are back on the clock here, Bryson, with pick 55. I'm going to scroll back up. I just want to see who Green Bay took here in the first round. So at pick 23, Green Bay went with a linebacker from Georgia, Jalen Walker. So another Walker linebacker out of Georgia, Green Bay went. So that would be an interesting one for sure. Caleb Johnson went to Seattle, running back from Iowa in the second round. So good for him. And pick 55. So we're back on the clock. So we addressed our wide receiver. We need a tight end and a defensive lineman. I'm going to go ahead and take a peek at the tight ends here real quick. Maybe a little bit too early to take one of these guys, but let's take a look at Arroyo. So he graded out 71.7, 590 receiving yards on the season with 7 touchdown catches. Receiving grade was 73.6. Contested catch rate, not great at all, 20%. Don't like that number. That one would scare me a little bit. Run blocking grade 61.3, slightly below average there. Size wise, he's 6'4, 245. So I am going to save the tight end. I think I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our defensive linemen. Let's look at let's get rid of the tight ends here. Let's pull up our D lineman here. That'll probably be where I go here. So Shamar Turner from A&M is on the board. So he not great. So he graded out a 59.4, had 2 sacks on the season, 1 quarterback hit, 18 hurries. Pass rush grade, not great, 60.8. Run defense, also below average of 64.3. His run stop rate's only 7.9%. Pass rush win rate's only 6.2%. Size wise, he's 6'4", 300 pounds. So he's got good size to him. Did not grade out well at all. Let's look at a lot here. So, gosh, there's not a lot here. So let me just take, maybe we go heavy on wide receiver. So let me pull up the wide receivers here. Got Jalen Nola. Let's look at Xavier Restrepo here. So he graded out an 81.8, finished with 1,127 yards on the season with 11 touchdowns. Receiving grade 83, grade versus man coverage 87.6, and his contested catch rate's pretty good, 61.5% there. He's a 5'10", 198-pound wide receiver. Probably a guy you can play a lot out of the slot, gives you some versatility. We need some offense here. I don't like the tight ends in this round. I don't like the defensive linemen. Trey Harris is tempting. I'm going to go with Xavier Restrepo here. So we went heavy on wide receivers. So you are on the clock again here, Bryson.
Yeah, let's take a look at tight end.
Let's go to tight ends. So we got Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green on the board.
Let's take a look at him.
So he graded out pretty well, 95.9, had 1,555 receiving yards for a tight end. This is fantastic. 10 touchdowns. Receiving grade was a 96.4. A contested catch rate, pretty good, 54.5. Run blocking grade was a 75.2. He's a 6'4", 230-pound tight end. This is he's graded out pretty well in the season.
Take him.
Harold Fannin Jr. So we're going to go ahead and take him at tight end here. So let's go ahead and pull the trigger.
He was ranked 103?
Yeah, that's surprising. A lot of it could just be level of competition as well.
Yeah.
So that'll bring us to pick 25. So this should be our final pick here in the draft. We've taken our tight end. We've gone heavy on wide receiver. Now may the time be the time that we look at some of our defensive linemen. I am going to add edge rushers in with our defensive linemen here. Just to take a look here. So Quandarius Robinson from Alabama is still on the board. Let's go ahead and take a look at him. So he graded out an 86, 3 sacks on the year, 6 hits, 10 quarterback hurries. This is only in 9 games. His pass rush grade was 90.3. Run defense was 76.1. Run stop rate 8.1, and his pass rush win rate was 24. 6'5", 241. So he's got good size to him for a defensive end. Quandarius Robinson. Let's take a look here. So Ahmad Hassanian, that's a tough one. So he graded out 81.4, had 10 sacks, 17 hits, 35 quarterback hurries. His pass rush grade was a 76.9. His run defensive grade was 80.3, so pretty good there. Run stop rate 6.3%, and his pass rush win rate was 16.1. Size wise, he's 6'3", 271. So between these two, I think I'm going to go with Quandarius Robinson here. I'm going to draft him. I know he's not an interior defensive lineman, but he does add strength to that, outside edge rusher for the Chargers. So I'm going to go ahead and draft him. And that will wrap up our 4-round mock draft, Bryson, for the Chargers. We went with wide receiver Luther Burden III. Got an A on that one. Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver from Miami, also got an A on that one. Tight end Harold Fannin Jr., a C+. And Quandarius Robinson, an A-. So we graded out with an A on this one for the Chargers. Went pretty heavy on wide receiver in this 4-round mock draft. But if you're a Chargers fan, let us know in the comments what you think. Who you would have drafted in these first 4 rounds. Would you be happy if you came out of the draft through the first 4 rounds with these guys on the board for you? So let us know what you think in the comments. Bryson, as always,
It's Go Pack Go.